Like I said earlier, Catherine Schaff, Executive Director at Early Childhood Options. It is so complex and comes with a lot of information, so I'm happy to kind of speak about it again, about who ECO is, our entity, and how we're funded. We are funded federally, state, county, municipality, and grant funded. So with that comes a lot of complexities. So I put here today that we work on quality initiatives. We kind of have a whole team that's dedicated to our council work. Each of our counties in the state of Colorado now have an early childhood council. ECO serves as the Summit County Early Childhood Council. We attend state meetings with our leadership group there and receive funding on quality initiatives, systems building, and availability of care and childcare resource and referral through CDEC, as they'd like to be called now. That's the Colorado Department of Early Childhood. A mouthful there. We also, through that work, we help all of you attain that high quality childcare rating from the Colorado Shines. And do some coaching. We have mental health consultant, and a lot of that work is also funded by our Right Start Early Care and Learning program, funded through the county, and then our Summit Pre-K program, part of the Strong Future. Additionally, we are a subrecipient of the Head Start and Early Head Start program. We service 60 families in contracted slots with some of our partners in the field. Those partners, Lake Dillon Preschool, Summit County Preschool, Wildflower Nature School, Summit School District, and Carriage House. So we're kind of equally distributed north to south of the community, and I think that's really an accomplishment to have for us, and just a unique way of how a Head Start program is implemented, because primarily across the country with this federal program, you are just a one Head Start site and you operate through your child care center. But being unique in a rural community, Summit County government is the grantee. We are a subrecipient, and then we subcontract that out to our programs. We've seen success in it and certainly some challenges through that. And then we have our tuition assistance program. Tuition assistance also being funded by federal, state, county, and now our municipalities. That is pretty robust, as you all know, and we've navigated through that in our first year of countywide tuition assistance. Proud to say we spent $5 million this year in subsidies across the community. So kudos, thank you so much to everybody that's a participant in that. I do have to give a huge shout out to my staff member, Michelle Mahoney, for really being the party of one, as we say in the office, but cranking out those applications and talking to these families and talking to you all to make that work. So. A little bit about quality improvement. On the ECO side, we offer coaching and consulting to the point of Tiernan talking about HR supports. We have 2 dedicated staff members that help with onboarding of staff, answering kind of some basic HR questions. Some go deeper into it depending on each of their needs. And then also right now, I know those 2 staff members are deep in the weeds with ICRA, health insurance, benefit packages, and all of that. So giving guidance and support to you all on answering those questions. And then the biggest one last year was FMLI, that family medical leave. So we navigated that, and then we also have, and they're working towards coaching credentials to be able to do those classroom or class observations that go towards your quality rating at your program, both infant and toddler and preschool, and then professional development supports, coaching hours that go again towards your Colorado Shines rating for quality. Next, kind of flowing right into that, we have our menu of quality services. We then evolved to this menu of quality services. It's a year-round training calendar based on feedback from prior years of what directors or what teachers would like to see for training and professional development opportunities. Also trying to align with Colorado Shines and meeting your social emotional hours that are required by even licensing. And then having quick 1 to 2 hour trainings, having series trainings, and then more in-depth trainings. We offer support in the Colorado Shines quality rating. Most of our sites operate at that level 3 through 5, which requires either a rater to come out and do a really in-depth 2-day full process there of looking at everything between your administrative processes. I remember Ginny mentioned something about parent surveys. That's definitely one for points on there, is surveying parents, classroom interactions, training requirements for all your teachers, for your admin staff, so that credential is really important. The environment, how that's set up with the environmental rating scale, your playground, making sure you have the appropriate depth of wood chips, and everything is safety oriented around, measurements and all of those kind of fun things. So we offer support with that. And then our big piece behind the scenes is our computer work and our technical assistance for data support. We are grateful that we're able to provide these platforms at no cost to all of these sites, being our Early Learning Ventures, that core platform for your childcare management system. And then right now we're utilizing Kinside for our countywide wait list. And, I think I say it a lot at work, but good data in, good data out. That's a big lift over there, especially with kids kind of always floating through month by month and year by year about sufficiency for us to report out to county commissioners, our town managers, and really advocate for the funding that we kind of funnel through ECO to all of you. And then I just wrote on here, we have 5 ECO staff members that are dedicated to this work. Then we have our Head Start program. As I kind of said, that Summit County government is the grantee for Early Head Start and Head Start. That grant specifically serves about 49 children, I think, if I did my math right. And then ECO is the subrecipient, and we manage the program. And that management, again, comes with strong partnerships with our contracted slots and our programs to adhere to all of those federal policies, rules, and regs that Head Start has on their own side above and beyond licensing. Additionally, we have a partnership with Clayton Early Learning Center. They're out of Denver. They were able to write for an expansion grant for Early Head Start 8 years ago or so. I'm looking at Courtney because you might remember, but Clayton is an additional kind of line item on our budgets, and that's just Early Head Start specific, and we split those between Lake Dillon Preschool and Summit County Preschool. Cumulatively, then, we're serving 60 Early Head Start and Head Start children across the community. I think it was just important to highlight that of just like another kind of funding stream for us that we're managing. The important piece of Head Start, I think, with the blending and braiding of our programming is it's really important that those Head Start children, because they will be income eligible for CCAP run out of our friends at Health and Human Services. We kind of try to stack that funding with our Head Start eligible children to make sure that CCAP can be the first payer, and then Head Start pays on top of that. And I think the biggest piece here, our $5 million program of Summit County tuition assistance. First, I started with the Colorado Universal Preschool Program. It was all eligible 4-year-olds, and I say age eligible because they align with eligibility for kindergarten. So it's the year before they enter into kindergarten, and free to all, no matter what the income. You just have to have that age eligibility for the 15 hours a week for 10 months of programming. And then additionally, 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds can receive an additional 15 hours. And I should clarify that 3-year-olds can receive 15 hours, but they could also receive 30 hours depending on qualifying factors. And those qualifying factors have to do with income, homelessness, if they have an IEP, and if they're English language learners. Questions on UPK?
Just something that's kind of in the future that's coming down the pike, what happens if that funding runs out? Going back to like budgeting and that kind of stuff. Like what if something does not get approved by the state and we don't get that funding, the parents don't get that funding? Now that we've all increased our tuition rates so much, what happens to the centers? What happens to the parents' payments, tuitions? That's just something that I've been like thinking about because it's scary. Uh-oh.
I lose sleep over it. I think with the UPP, it's state legislature, so that's still happening. I think it's just a matter of, projection and looking at that. I think that's where it's important to be looking at our local funding for that and kind of really making sure that we're still adhering to the whole mission and vision of what tuition assistance looks like in Summit County. So my eyes are on that constantly. I don't have a more direct answer for you. Sorry. I think the biggest thing on our mind that we should really be thinking about is strong future reauthorization in 2028. And thankfully, we have close connection with Summit County government and talking about that, and we'll be, have to rely on you all to share that message. And that goes back to the importance of our reporting and our annual reports to say what we've done. And I'm, proud to produce all of those reports from 2019 when we first started of SPK.
First Steps is not a ballot initiative?
No. I do have Shannon here today, so she's going to speak on First Steps in a minute. Okay. Then we have our CCAP federally funded and then dispersed from Summit County government, Health and Human Services, as they're under the economic security programs there. So that's a great partnership. I would say in state meetings that I sit in, no one really has that partnership or connection of sharing of information as we do here. So I'm really proud of that work that we've done, just to kind of stack that funding and make sure you all are receiving whole tuition, because we know CCAP does not reimburse at your posted tuition rates. So that's a big piece of the puzzle there. Then we have our Summit Pre-K Strong Future initiatives. Now we are at those 3 and 4-year-olds before they enter kindergarten, just to kind of budget purposes behind the scenes, and tracking of children and data is helpful for us. So just kind of working backwards down the number line, as I like to say. And then we have our First Steps program, which, just so you all know, and I don't to clarify for us, I have 2 of my board members here present, Shannon Haynes from Town of Breckenridge, and then Allison Hiltz with Summit County government. But I'm just really happy to have Shannon here to talk about First Steps, Town of Breckenridge tuition assistance, and kind of how we got there.
Hey, everybody. It's kind of funny to see people that I know from outside of childcare here. So I'm Shannon Haynes. I'm the town manager in Breck. I can take no credit for the Breckenridge Childcare Tuition Assistance Program. It started many, many years ago. And in addition to that, Frisco hopped on probably a few years ago and started a tuition assistance program that they modeled after Breck. At some point, I think it was the town managers, and I was not the manager in Breck at the time, got together, and the other communities that didn't have tuition assistance, they wanted to hop on this too. And so those managers got together and came up with an idea for countywide tuition assistance to be administered through ECO, which makes way more sense than having individual staff members in our municipalities administering a program like this. And so they came up with a program. We did an IGA with ECO, and we all, they came up with a number that they thought would cover the first year of countywide tuition assistance. And we were probably about $500,000 off. The program actually cost more and was much more successful than they had anticipated. Catherine and her staff did a great job that year of also bringing unlicensed in-home centers on board so that they could also have tuition assistance for their kiddos. So the program grew. It was very, very successful in that first year, and the towns, ponied up the extra money to cover that budget. In 2024-25, we're looking at somewhere around $2 million for that program, maybe a little bit less depending on how things go. It is creating some challenges for the towns in the county because it is much more successful than we thought. The towns have committed to funding the program in 2024-25. Many of the municipalities cover that cost with nicotine revenue, which is great. It's a wonderful sin tax. However, our goal with putting a tax, and a very high tax, it's about 80% on nicotine products and tobacco products, is to get people not to buy them. So it is not a funding source that we want to see continue. So we're a little bit at odds in that because the towns want to support childcare, but they also want to reduce the use of nicotine and tobacco products. The town of Breck uses marijuana funds, and we have for years to cover childcare. That's going down. The town is committed to childcare, so we're in a little bit of a different boat. We're also, very lucky to have the kind of revenue that we have, but the other towns are not in that same situation, and so we are looking for other ways to help cover that cost of first steps. And we are looking to the county with Strong Futures to try to help us out with that, or some other dedicated funding stream. It's great that the towns are contributing and running this First Steps program or funding this First Steps program, but it isn't a tax, and so you don't, it could go away, I guess is my point. And I don't think any of the communities want that to happen. Everyone is very committed to this, but we're working right now with Catherine to make sure that we can continue funding it going forward. So that was kind of all I had prepared on First Steps. Does anyone have any questions? No? Great, thank you.
And then next, I have Allison Hiltz from Summit County Government, who's going to kind of walk you through some of the numbers that I spoke about for our Right Start and Strong Future SPK funding. Welcome, Allison, and she'll kind of walk us through pie charts.
Hello. Nothing like being the person between lunch and the end of your day, so with pie charts on top of that. But luckily, I think my presentation is fairly short. I just want to kind of go over a quick budget overview of the 2025 proposed budget, so not adopted, not final, full disclaimer. But this is what was presented to the BOCC by Finance in October about where the funding is coming from for childcare. And so I have a few general slides, and then we'll dig a little bit deeper into what each of these means. And Catherine already did a great job on the programming side, so please save your questions on that for her. And just excited to be here. I am on the board of Mountain Sprouts, Eco, and Wildflower. So this has been very beneficial for me to learn as a board member as well. So thank you all for your services and your partnership and for bringing this really important issue, or tackling this really important issue, rather. So the county is happy to support. So we have three main buckets for revenues for what is going into childcare. We have the Strong Future funding. I did not make this slide. It's actually Strong Future, but Strong Future funding. which is the tax initiative that we talked about earlier, and that is up for reauthorization in a few years and is very much top of mind for me, taking over from Jenny, who I'm sure you were all very familiar with, Jenny Wood, on a lot of the childcare work as well as the behavioral health. So crossover with Kellen here. So that is 3.7 million. That is 57%. We've got a lodging tax, and I'll dive into more about how much that is. And then we also have an early childhood fund. So this is where we're spending the money. So first we have an overarching one. So a lot of it is going to Summit Pre-K, as you can see. Both Right Start and SPK expenditures are going up. I mean, everything's kind of going up, but going up more so than others. And then we have First Steps and Right Start. You can kind of see that breakdown there. And then this dives more into some of the programming that we talked about. So as you can see, most of it is still going to tuition assistance, even when we break it out into all of these different categories. And these will be, I think the slides are getting sent out, so if you miss all the pie chart pieces, let me know. But you can see here that kind of the biggest pieces are the recruitment and retention, which is a priority that has come up several times today, as well as that tuition assistance.
So when you're saying like recruitment and retention 19% out to the childcare centers, or what is that?
These are our internal budget line items that we use for Right Start for ECO. This is ECO.
Oh, apologies, yes.
Yeah.
This is how we send it out to be cascaded back throughout.
But
yes.
how the partnership has worked now is a lot of that funnels and is a pass-through to our childcare programs, right? Quality initiative, back to childcare programs, recruitment and retention, back to the childcare programs, school readiness, paying for their TS Gold, their iPads, professional development, that menu of quality services. Evaluation is our tech pieces.
So of the three funds, we have the Early Childhood Care and Learning Fund, and that is a 0.5 property tax mill levy. So obviously will fluctuate with valuation changes. And that particular fund funds both Right Start and First Step, with these pieces bundled underneath that. And then we have Strong Future, which is the one that's up for renewal or reauthorization rather, in 2028. That is going to multiple different funds, but childcare is getting about 25% of that. That also goes to wildfire prevention, affordable housing, a few other pieces countywide. And that particular fund is broken down and covers these pieces specifically. And there's a few other smaller line items under these, but these are kind of the bigger pieces. And so I can send out, if anyone's interested, the full presentation from finance to the board that really drills into the numbers. Budget presentations can be 2 hours long if I want them to be, so I figured I'd keep it here and then send out information as needed. And then the last one is the lodging tax. And this is 2% on unincorporated. About 45% of that is going to childcare. And that is mainly for just reserve funds and capital funding, so things like construction of new facilities. And that's the end of my presentation, actually. So,
are there any funding gaps now or in the future that you all see?
Always. Always, because both Right Start and SPK are property tax. And so, evaluations only come every couple years, but programming always increases each year to year. So always being strategic about that and our spending. Certainly, I want sustainability for our tuition assistance program. So, trying to keep a positive attitude on that and finding that funding and working, strategically with all of those partners is really helpful.
I'll just say also to that, I think there's a big overlap between the mental health and the early childhood and prevention aspect. So that's something that the mental health or behavioral health strong future funding and early childhood strong future funding are trying to find where that line is and how those funds are utilized most appropriately for behavioral interventions, prevention, and the overlap that exists so foggily.
Yeah, and I would just add that, a lot of this funding is subject to either the changes in the property tax valuations or reauthorization by the voters. And so that is a really big piece of this. And as we're facing kind of a budget crunch, not a budget crunch, tightening budget, right, in the countywide, and that's not just in childcare, but countywide. I think there's always kind of the keeping of mind how to get more funding, how to maintain funding. And so I think when it comes to that reauthorization, that kind of all hands on deck about the importance of childcare, the importance of what we need and mental health and these supports, because that's going to be a huge piece of the puzzle moving forward. Especially because, we know at the state, their budget, they're having some challenges as well, specifically around education and childcare. So I think, yes, definite concerns. To the point earlier about the lodging tax, I just pulled up like the deeper dive budget, and it actually says that it's specifically reserved for child care, not child programs. So that is, I think, a distinction there that's in there too. So just sharing that update.
This is probably a question for both of you, but could you speak a little bit to like what you see for the next 5 years for need of childcare in terms of like number of children in the county and capacity, and if there's a takeaway for us as board members, whether it's our facilities or our staff or just things we should be thinking about in terms of strategic planning down the road.
Great question. Data is really important. And it's really important in our collaboration for good data in, good data out. I recognize our Kinside system is not working to what we want it, but I can't cut ties with that without an answer for here's the new and greatest thing. Anecdotally, we don't need to build a new childcare center, a large childcare center at any time soon. Demographics from the state office kind of say population is flat for the next 5 years. And I know all of our sites aren't full. That's a reality. Our 3 and 4 year old slots, they are not full. And I want to do whatever we can to make sure everybody else is full before we start talking about where we're putting the shovel in the ground. Because if we open up more childcare centers, that changes my numbers on this budget. And then you have to strategically think about how you are going to make it work with your flat numbers year after year. So I'm getting the message across to any community members that kind of ask me. BOCC asks me every time I'm up there. Catherine, you left out the waitlist numbers in your presentation, so would you like to tell me about those?
The best data that we have without recounting is the school district. Yeah. And so I think it wouldn't be very hard to get that. They have it projected out for the same reason. Do they need to build a new school? They need to take up, Breckenridge down, that kind of thing. So they have year by year, and it changes. As anybody who has kids, you can have a senior class that has, 500, and the junior class has 400, but the school district can tell you pretty precisely over, I think it's maybe 10 years.
Yeah, it's flat.
I'm just going to add, because you are all in this room, so boards should know, this is a problem that's happening with all the centers is the school district has added so many 3, 4-year-old rooms, and that pays the bills for all of us. So the more we can all get the word out that we do not need any more 3 and 4-year-old slots. It's infants and toddlers. We all know that. Nobody can sustain on an infant and toddler program because they cost money. So, as a community, we do have to look at how can we help the infant toddler crunch and still keep everybody full in their older classrooms, because that's who pays the bills is 4-year-olds. Sounds ridiculous, but it's the truth.